Did you guys hear about the mass shooting or the shooting spree over this weekend in Alabama? Maybe you didn't. In fact, I'd go ahead and bet that you probably didn't. You'd think this story would be national news, especially when we find out that the shooting was racially motivated. That's right. A man went around shooting people based on their race, people he did not know, injuring, I believe, 5 in 3 separate instances. Okay, maybe it's not a mass shooting because it was 3 separate instances. Like he was going around targeting people based on race. It wasn't one moment. Maybe, it was one day. It was a shooting spree, but I wonder why it's not on the front page of the New York Times. Could it be that the man who went on the shooting spree was targeting white people? That's what he said. He said he was aggrieved. White people had been targeting him and harassing him and bullying him his whole life. And so he just had to have them. That's what he said. This psychopath going around shooting innocent people because of their race is horrifying. It's wrong. You know, the left, they come out and they say hate speech will lead to violence. That's why it must be banned. Define hate speech. Okay, they say hate speech is derogatory speech or speech, it's derogatory speech targeting people based on their race or national origin, etc. And it will eventually lead to people getting violent. I believe that's actually true. I believe we counter that hate speech with better speech. When someone says something insane and dumb, we challenge it in public discourse. We don't allow it to fester. There's a problem right now. Social media bans conservatives at the slightest hint of anything anti-establishment, like #LearnToCode. How do you counter hate speech when the people who would normally be saying, shut up, you're crazy, you're racist, are being shut down and banned? What happens? Well, the left certainly engages in hate speech. They demonize and they insult and demean white people all day and night. You've got critical race theory saying that whiteness is property. It is overtly racist. Anybody of any race can be racist towards anybody else. So what happens? When you keep telling people that all of their problems in their life is the result of one particular race, don't be surprised when people go nuts and target that race. We don't want that. I don't care if it's hate speech about black people or Asians or Latinos or white people. We don't want that. We want to counter that. Well, big tech, they don't do anything about it. They'll ban a conservative for saying anything close to racist, and they'll let people like Sarah Jeong, I think formerly of the New York Times, to for years post anti-white rhetoric. And the result, you'll get mass shootings like this. And you won't hear a peep about it for the most part. I mean, look, obviously the Atlanta Journal-Constitution is reporting it. Good for them. But is this going to be a mainstream national news story? It's going to enter the conversation where we say, hey, maybe the hate speech from critical race theory is going too far and it's making people attack. It's drumming up all this fear and hate and anger. Maybe we need to have an honest conversation challenging this. Or maybe there's a reality that free speech comes with consequences and responsibility, repercussions. Maybe people, say in Alabama, should be armed and prepared to defend themselves. I don't have all the answers. What I can tell you is we cannot allow a left to say that the right should be banned for hate speech while they engage in hate speech. Again, I can't tell you what we should do other than we shouldn't allow them the control of speech, blocking us the ability to actually counter this psychotic rhetoric. Because I'll tell you this, when you come out and start talking about racism against white people, the media will immediately attack you. The leftists will attack you because they are racists. Like I said, I don't care what the hate speech targets. Not a fan. Don't like it. But banning it doesn't work. Now here's where it gets scarier. The rhetoric from these leftist groups, Black Lives Matter, has resulted in police basically abandoning us. I don't blame them. In fact, I actually respect the cops for doing this. We got a couple stories. Daily Mail. Footage shows cops doing nothing after innocent people are shot during Atlanta drive-by because the mayor has banned police pursuits. Residents of affluent Buckhead say it's a war zone and demand to secede. Yeah. Check this one out. YouTube censors video of Uber driver assaulted in his car. Now, this is, again, it's censoring a video. But the real issue here is that the driver said that if the police were doing their job, it would not have happened. But the police are resigning in large numbers. Check this out. Just from last week, North Carolina Police Department stops responding to certain non-emergency crimes amid staffing crisis. Here we go. Let me read the story. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution says, A 39-year-old man accused of shooting and wounding 5 people in Alabama and Georgia told police his assaults were racially motivated and he was targeting white men. A detective testified Monday. The Columbus Ledger-Inquirer reported a police detective testified in a preliminary hearing that Justin Tieran Roberts, who is black, told police that white men had picked on him and wronged him for all his life. Basically, he explained throughout his life, specifically white males had taken from him, and also what he described as military-looking white males had taken from him. Detective Brandon Lockhart testified, according to the newspaper. Police have accused Roberts of shooting 5 people in 3 separate assaults in Columbus, Georgia, and Phoenix City, Alabama. All victims are expected to recover. Columbus Police Chief Freddie Blackman said Sunday. The chief added police found no evidence that Roberts knew any of his victims. So this was a guy who's racist, targeted a bunch of random guys he did not know, shooting them. Roberts appeared in court Monday in Columbus for a preliminary hearing in one of those incidents where a man was shot in the back as he was getting into his vehicle. Lockhart testified that Roberts said, "I had to have him," about one of the shooting victims. Roberts also claimed that such men were shooting at him in a wooded area with a slingshot, and the wound had infected his skin. Lockhart testified, but he said police saw no injuries to substantiate that, and that makes no sense. He just happens to walk around and random white dudes are shooting slingshots at him in a bunch of different cities. Sorry, don't believe it. Public defender Robin King requested a mental health evaluation for Roberts, saying the man was suffering from delusions. The officer's testimony has demonstrated that Mr. Roberts is having delusions and a disconnect from reality. Oh, here we go. A guy goes on a shooting spree and immediately they say, oh, it was a mental health issue. Why didn't the cops shoot this man and stop him? When the cops were apprehending him, why didn't they just shoot and kill him? Isn't that, oh, wait a minute. That's the Black Lives Matter narrative. I was told that when the shooter is white, the police will come and detain them without issue. And that if the shooter was black, they just shoot, kill, or tase. It's the reality is a race isn't a large factor. It is a factor. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely. Race plays a very serious role. There's racial profiling. It exists. And to deny it would be absurd. But it's more than that. Where's Black Lives Matter to come out and saying, you know what, we're going to condemn this. Oh, I'm sorry. Black Lives Matter doesn't care about these particular issues, especially considering he was targeting white people. The rhetoric this guy is espousing, very plainly, I believe, comes from critical race theory. Judge Julius Hunter found probable cause to send Roberts' case to Muskogee Superior Court. Police said one person was hurt in a shooting Friday night at a hotel in Phoenix City. Less than 2 hours later Friday, 3 people were shot in Columbus. A 5th was shot Saturday afternoon. They say Phoenix City and Columbus sit on opposite sides of the Alabama-Georgia border. The Columbus police chief sought to reassure people that the downtown business district known as Uptown is safe. Uptown is safe. These recent shooting incidents that occurred in the last 24 hours had been isolated incidents. We have not received any information that would indicate there was anyone else involved in these shooting incidents other than the person we have in custody. Let me just, I want to explain something very, very simple. I don't care about the race of the perpetrator. I don't believe race is a motivating factor as to like what causes crime. I think poverty is, I think class is, and I think, yes, this guy was racist, and that was a motivating factor as to why he shot other people. So it does play a role. What I'm saying is, I don't immediately assume that one race is predisposed to committing crimes. I will say, when the media overwhelmingly says hateful things and disparaging things about white people and white privilege, and you've got white people on their knees in these photos saying, I'm sorry, and these weird things where they're washing feet, this is dividing us based on race, and we want and need to do the opposite. Otherwise, you will get this. Now, of course, you get white people who go on shooting sprees targeting, other minorities and races as well. And you get white people who go on shooting sprees. Of course, it really happens. I'm highlighting this story specifically to say we should not have any double standards. We should condemn all of the mass shootings, all of the violence, and all of the racist rhetoric. All of it. Now, what happens when the police do nothing? I don't blame the cops. I don't. We're seeing it. Black Lives Matter rhetoric, defund the police, targeting cops. It is resulting in police saying, I will not respond. Good. Good for them. I left the city because of it. I don't know what you'd expect these cops to do. Many people have told me, Tim, the cops should risk their lives and their careers to save others, even if it means they'll go to prison for the rest of their lives. And I'm like, no, they shouldn't. That's irrational. That makes no sense. You want to encourage a society that arrests the cops who are doing their job to protect people? No. Look, there's a viral video of these cops tasing a dude because he was vaping. That's messed up. Okay. What do we say on Twitter, everybody? Whenever we see a video, remember that you see that cop? He does the pit maneuver and flips the lady's car over. We say it very simply, right to jail. Believe it or not, right to jail. That's the joke. But it's true. The cops, they want to tase this kid because he was vaping. Dude, fire those guys. But these cops, the regular cops who need to be responding to mass shootings, they don't want to respond anymore because they get targeted. When the cops do the good thing, when they're doing the right thing, doesn't matter. Like the cop in Minneapolis, the wanted fugitive who was armed, jumps into his car and she accidentally shoots him and now she gets to go to prison. There you go. Daily Mail reports, this is the moment cops appear to do nothing amid a drive-by shooting in Atlanta as residents of the wealthy Buckhead area say it's a war zone and demand to secede. The video, which was played on Tucker Carlson tonight, shows people lining up near a dark-colored van that is parked on the side of the road when a white car passes by and shots ring out, with one going straight through the dark van, striking one of the passerby and sending people scrambling. A few seconds later, blue lights could be seen reflecting off the windshield of the black van, symbolizing police cars passing by and not stopping at the scene in the wealthy Buckhead neighborhood. Bill White, the CEO and chairman of the Buckhead City Committee, which represents a wealthy Atlanta neighborhood so terrorized by rising crime they want to secede from the city, said he was horrified by the video. He said the police cars were properly marked and had their lights on. They did not stop, he said, but did call an ambulance and rendered help at the scene. The video is horrifying, White said when he showed it to Carlson Monday night. White said his friend who took the video asked police officers afterwards why they didn't chase the suspect and was allegedly told that Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms issued an order not to chase cars around Atlanta because she doesn't want the police getting into accidents. Let them go. Did you guys see what happened with the mass shooting in Austin? It was the Austin, what was it? The Statesman. I can't remember the name of the paper, but they said that they weren't going, it was a major paper publication. They weren't going to reveal details about the suspect at large because of potential racial animosity or something to that effect. It would just be harmful stereotypes. Dude, the guy just shot people. We got to find him. That's what we get. The media won't do it. The cops can't do it. The mayor says don't do it. Get out of cities, man. Okay, fine. If you want to stay in a city, I don't have to tell you, man. Your house is on fire. Eventually the fire will make it to where you're sitting, and I can't run in and rescue you. I can warn you the fire is there. They say, it appears the police department itself that it appears to be the police department itself that introduced the measure. In January 2020, former police chief Erica Shields halted police pursuits altogether, deciding they put people in too much danger after 3 people were killed in police pursuits in 1 month. In one incident, the AP reported fleeing suspects struck and killed 2 men who were caretakers for sick and disabled family members. The police department decided to reinstate its pursuit policy this past January, but established new rules for car chases amid a rise in crime, including the death of a jogger who was shot dead in the wealthy Atlanta neighborhood of Buckhead earlier this month. His wife, Ann Worrell, appeared on Fox News on Thursday, where she claimed that Buckhead residents are fleeing the area because of a surge in crime amid calls in Atlanta to defund the police. Quote, over the last 12 to 18 months, it has just gotten worse and worse. And as you talk to other people that we know in the area, we just felt it creeping closer and closer into our neighborhood. So it has been felt by everybody here. The new police chase rules state an officer can only engage in a police pursuit if he or she believes the fleeing suspect has committed or attempted to commit a forcible felony. Those include murder, voluntary manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter, homicide by vehicle, armed robbery, hijacking, aggravated assault, kidnapping, and escape. I would assume that shooting at people from a vehicle constitutes one of those crimes at least. The cops aren't responding anymore. I'm not surprised. I don't blame them. They say additionally under the new rules, 11 Alive reports, no more than 3 police vehicles are allowed to take part in a pursuit, and officers must have a supervisor's approval before pursuing a chase. The police department is now reliant on support from the Georgia State Patrol for these chases. The new regulations went into effect January. I get it. I understand why they want that policy. So what do? Do we just recognize then that big cities are too far gone? There's nothing we can do. There's going to be waves of violent crime. The cops can't stop them. It'll only create more chaos and just don't do anything. Reminds me of like the superhero movies, right? The more realistic ones where the superhero causes massive collateral damage, destroying a city. And then they're like, it wasn't worth it. It was a bank robber and you blew up a building or something, you know, like why destroy a building to stop one guy? It wasn't worth it. That's basically what the cops are saying. They're like, look, we know these guys are driving around shooting at people. What are we supposed to do about it? Cause more damage, hurt more people? Fine, I guess. But I wouldn't want to live in a place like that. I'd want the cops to do what they have to do to stop someone driving around shooting people, because I don't want to live in a place where people drive around shooting people. Accidents happen. If in the pursuit of stopping violent crime, I recognize that. It's unfortunate, but you know who's at fault for that? The drive-by shooter. The guy who drives in his car and shoots and then starts a high-speed chase. Anyone who gets hurt for any reason at that point, it's the fault of the guy who committed the crime. So stop them. This video is crazy, man. YouTube censors video of Uber driver assaulted in his car. So here's what happened. I'll give you the gist of the story. It's an Uber driver, and he was in Morgantown, West Virginia, while waiting for his passengers. He got caught in a street fight between two groups of people. They opened his door and started beating him. I don't know why. The driver said that the police aren't responding anymore. The police were doing their jobs. He says, I wasn't able to sleep for several days, Kang told the Daily Caller. Uber eventually helped pay for the damages to his vehicle, but only after pressure from the media, according to Kang. Kang also said he believes the assault could have been avoided if more police officers were patrolling the scenes of Morgantown. The city is currently having trouble hiring police officers after a reduction in staff. And this is the kind of thing that's happening across the country. And it's also happening in North Carolina. Cops stop responding to certain non-emergency calls. They are facing staffing crises. And this is exactly what Black Lives Matter has been calling for. Black Lives Matter has been saying, defund the police, get rid of the cops. We don't want cops. Well, if the cops don't respond to these things, what do we do? I'll tell you what I do. I bought guns. What could I do? What should I do? What should you do? What should anyone do? Well, if you live in one of these big cities, many of these places don't allow you to have weapons. They will arrest you. The cops will come, the police themselves, and they will arrest you if you defend yourself while they aren't doing their jobs. Now, I can't blame the cops for not responding to calls. Black Lives Matter, the climate. In fact, I expect them to say, I'm not going to respond to calls. But at the same time, I also would demand they stop arresting people who simply need to defend themselves and are exercising their constitutional rights. Now, of course, don't break the law. Okay, if you live in one of these blue states where you're not allowed to defend yourselves, I don't know what to tell you. You need to get out. I did. I was in New Jersey. I was told explicitly that if you defend yourself in your own home, you're going to jail. Oh, I know. People say, Tim, New Jersey's castle doctrine. No, it isn't. It's partial castle doctrine. And what that means is you have to it's called an affirmative defense, meaning that you have, after they arrest you and you go to jail, let's say a guy breaks your door down and then he's wielding a gun and you shoot him. After they arrest you and charge you with the crime, you can then go to court and justify why you did it. But it's castle doctrine. No. You have a duty to retreat from your own home in New Jersey. You have to prove you had no choice but to stay in your home to defend yourself. And they will argue, the prosecutor will say, you could have safely left. What about other people in the home? They could have safely left too. Now, I don't trust New Jersey. I don't. They say, no, look, if you have family in there, we'll be lenient. No, they won't. I don't want to hear it. Get out of here. New Jersey is a psychotic state run by a psychopath. Phil Murphy is insane. And insane people keep voting for the people who live there. So what do? I guess you'll leave. That's what I did. And it's unfortunate. I hear so many people say, Tim, why don't you stay and fight? Why don't you stay and vote and change the system? It's like, dude, at a certain point, it's too far gone. I don't know. Not for the rest of this country. We shore up our defenses in the places we go to. You don't go into these new areas and vote for the same trash policies. I didn't vote for these people. I voted against them. I voted Republican straight ticket. Because I was like, these people are nuts. I need the right to defend myself. But you know what the problem is? In New Jersey, even the Republicans are moderates. They're not going to be pro 2A. So you got to go somewhere like West Virginia. Well, that story we just saw was from West Virginia. You got to have the right to defend yourself. I look at this story where the crazy racist guy shoots those people, and I'm like, man, they couldn't have seen it coming. It was an ambush. Even if they were armed, I don't know what they could do, but they should be. Stop these crazy people. You got to protect the lives of others. Black Lives Matter doesn't care. It's all racially motivated. If they don't get what they want, it's racist. When something like this happens, they don't even talk about it. Where's the national press? Where's that story? Far and wide. They don't talk about it. It doesn't make the major national news. It should. Gun control advocates should be all up in arms, screaming like, look at this, we need gun control. I mean, we don't, but I'm saying they should at least be saying it, right? Yeah, well, they're not. Some probably will come out because you call them out and say, oh, no, I actually agree. Oh, I think blah, blah, blah. I take a look at Philando Castile. I think that was his name, right? Legally had a gun. But, many argue that he was rocking the ganj, right? So that he gets pulled over. The cop shouldn't have shot him. Basically, this guy was in a car with a legal firearm. It becomes an illegal firearm because he had illegal drugs with him. But the cop says, because he's committing a crime. I don't agree with that law, to be completely honest, but it is the law. So the cop says, show me your ID. The guy informs him that he has a weapon. The cop says, don't pull it out. Then the cop shoots the guy. It happened so quick. It's unfortunate. It shouldn't have happened. That guy wasn't a crazy, murderous felon. He was just a dude driving, and he had some weed on him. It shouldn't be a crime. Shouldn't be. It is, and I understand that. The guy shouldn't have been shot. I can easily call that out. I was pissed at where's the NRA? And the NRA dragged their feet, and they said, yeah, well, look, the guy had drugs on him. And I'm like, you know what, man, look, I don't care. They should advocate for that guy. They should say that should not be grounds for not having a weapon. Don't get me wrong. Being impaired and having a weapon, really, really, really bad. So this one's not so cut and dry. I just think we need to be very, very careful about the excuses used to shoot somebody because they were scared he had a gun. In this instance, I get it. Conservatives have made their argument. People should not be allowed to be impaired and wielding a weapon. That's a fact. So here we are facing this conundrum. No honest press, police quitting. These are the ramifications of all of this critical race theory and Black Lives Matter stuff. The only thing I can say is, be vigilant, pay attention, be aware of your surroundings. Crime is bad in these big cities. If it were me, I'd leave. I did leave. I went to the middle of nowhere. We got more land, more space for expansion, and things are, it's better. So I'll leave it there. Hopefully, just us talking about it, you guys sharing videos like this will help change minds. And we're already seeing more and more people buying weapons, buying guns, firearms. I hope they get training. Take it seriously. You got to protect yourself. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.